Tommy, week off. How did you enjoy it? And is it the perfect freshen up ahead of the big game on Friday night?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a holiday waiting for a prelim final, so just trying to kill a bit of time, just keep your training up, but also use the opportunity to freshen up and try and get away from footy. We all tuned in obviously on Friday night, see what took place there, but besides that, it's been pretty cruisy.
How much of an important break was it for Jonas and Todd? Do you expect both of those guys will be right to go?
Yeah, both of those boys will be right to play. I think it was probably important so they weren't going in sore, but I'd expect they'd be pretty close to 100% now.
What do you think about the break, Tommy? I reckon there's a stack getting around the last sort of 8 teams that made it through like you guys did from qualifying final. It's 4 and 4, so the break, some people say the rest is good, but others say that the continuity is good. But
I think obviously if you win that first qualifier, the break's good, but I'd prefer not to have the break pre-finals and just carry that momentum straight through.
What does that do, like having a bye in the middle of the year, when you have that sort of 14 days between games, when you go back and play the second one, what's that do for the players?
Yeah, some teams come off the bye a little bit sluggish. We haven't been particularly great in that respect, but last time we've shown it wasn't an issue. But I think it gives you an opportunity to freshen up. You just got to make sure you prepare right and you come and bring that heat, especially early in the game. That's when you can be found out. The legs are a little bit slow to catch up, but it shouldn't really be an issue.
So what can you do to make sure that you're ready at the start?
Nah, it's all up here, I think, mate. And I think when you're going to be in front of a home crowd and an opportunity to play in a grand final, it shouldn't matter.
Tommy, what's the mindset of the group? Do you look at the challenge of Richmond and they're the champs and you've got to knock them off, or do you look at it as you've sat on top all year and they're coming to your home ground and they've got to get it off you?
It's a bit of an individual thing. I like to feel like a bit of an underdog, like we're trying to knock them off. Despite beating them earlier in the year and finishing top, they've got the runs on the board over the last 3 years. But at the same time, we're well aware that we've played a lot of good footy this year and we should completely back in our game plan and the way we go about things. And we definitely shouldn't, play second fiddle or be intimidated by them.
And despite the changes that both teams had since you last played, do you take a bit of confidence from that game, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a quintessential Richmond side and they played their same style. And yeah, there are a few people missing, but the bones were the same, and we like to think that we've improved as a team in that time as well.
Tommy, what about the crowd? We know it's going to be a slightly increased capacity for the match. How important, given they were so late against Geelong, how big is that going to be for you?
Yeah, it's obviously huge for us. It gives us a little bit extra. I don't know if it has an impact on the opposition teams, but it's just great to have a full house and as many of our supporters in there as possible. Obviously, they've missed out on some footy this year, so the more we can get along, the better.
Can you put into words what supporters do, like when they have those, the Dursman clash a few weeks ago and you've got 20,000 people on their feet sort of cheering him off and you guys are grouped around each other. Can you put into words what moments like that do for football players in big games?
Yeah, I think it's more what they mean to the club as a whole. They're part of the fabric of, Port Adelaide. It's a community club, and in those particular moments, it's just nice to know you've got 25,000 people out there just, behind you and supporting you. Whether it's a decision that you think's maybe a bit stiff from the umpires and they're getting into them, they're doing the hard work for you, or when something goes really well and they just create that extra bit of energy for you.
So you said you wouldn't be intimidated by Richmond. Is there an intimidation factor they carry with them, given their record the last couple of years?
Not really. I think it's more respect. You've got to respect what they've done and acknowledge that, but then focus on our game. There's obviously a lot of great players in their team, and they've performed on the big stage pretty well for a long time. So you acknowledge that and then you focus on yourselves.
Will there be some sort of hard, dusty shutdown, or is it a difficult one to tackle?
He'll get the respect he deserves, but I think we stick to our game. We haven't shown that we've tagged players much this year. I think, if you shut down Dusty, you open the door for a Cochin or an Edwards. So there's lots of threats there, so we just stick to what we do well.
Have you noticed on the other side that throughout the year, other teams coming in, a few of your individuals perhaps in the midfield a bit harder and playing them a bit differently after the success they've had?
Yeah, I imagine it's pretty well the same. If you go to Boki, you open the door for Rocky or Wall, and vice versa. So it's just going to be a genuine head-to-head clash, I think. Both teams probably got plenty of respect for each other, and you obviously got to give them their dues for what they've done throughout the year.
What about down back, the sort of three to work out between Lynch and Rewald? Who do you like going
Yeah, we haven't talked about matchups as yet. I always like to get that mid-tier role and be able to drop off and maybe get a touch and get away from the goal square, because it's never that much fun being stuck in the cage on Dusty or Jack. But I'm pretty comfortable with whatever, and I know the other boys are as well. They've had big tasks throughout the year and acquitted themselves really well, so pretty confident in whatever those matchups are.
Gives you the confidence, Tom, that you can actually handle the occasion. I mean, it's obviously massive, but what gives you the confidence in the group? You've got some young fellas, experienced players who played well in the qualifying final, but yeah, what gives you the confidence that you guys can handle the occasion?
Yeah, I think you might have just answered your own question there. We've got that great balance of youth and excitement, and blokes that just aren't afraid. Like, those young boys just go out there and play their natural game, and then we've got the experienced boys. So if things do get tight, they know exactly what to do and they can give some great direction. But having won that qualifying final in a big game, that also gives you a heap of confidence as well.
Just after that game, Travis was on the TV, and one of the first things he said was the connection. He was talking about that and how it's big of the footy. How do you maintain that during COVID when you can't actually, I guess, meet outside of the club and that sort of thing?
Yeah, we can't meet outside of the club, but we spend a lot of time with each other at the club. We're probably the only people we can spend time with, generally. You can catch up with your immediate family and then your playing group, so that's it. So, they're the blokes you've spent the most time with this year, so it makes sense that your connection's grown in that time.
What's your message been to Westy the last couple of weeks, Tommy, and what's his attitude been like, obviously, on the outside?
It's exactly what you'd expect from a champion of the club. He's training hard and hoping he gets another opportunity later in the year. You don't know what could happen this week, and he'll be ready to go and ready to play his role as he has done for his whole career.
And just to Steve's question about experience as well, is there any like a reassuring factor or calming influence from your assistant coaches who have been there before and walked the same path?
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, I personally haven't talked about that one much, but it might be something worth visiting later in this week, and if we do get through this week, heading into next week.
Are you much of a planner for your pre-match little rev up as a captain?
I'm trying to now because I've run out of content, so I feel like the boys probably don't need much to fire them up this time of year, but I'll try and come up with something that hopefully gets them going. And to be honest, like, even if it's a bit of a dog's breakfast, sometimes the boys take as much pleasure out of that as anything. So
What's your style? Is it sort of reinforce what the coach has said, or is it a bit more of an emotive, rah-rah type thing?
like I said, it gets tough when you're 19 or 20 games into the year. So I threw it to Heartsy the other week, and that got the monkey off my back a little bit, but a bit of both. Sometimes it's emotive, sometimes you're just reaffirming what you guys want to do in that game. And I think, like I said, won't need much of a pump up this weekend.
How's the
Just
captaincy
last
sat
week.
with you this year, Tony?
Sorry, what was
How's
that?
the captaincy sat with you this year, obviously taking it on by yourself?
I think I've been incredibly lucky. The group I've been able to lead, they've made my job a dream, and also the support I've had around me. Like we talked about last year, it's not just myself, or it wasn't just Ollie and I, as Heartsy there, so it's a bit of a threesome there doing the job, and also the support I've had from the coaching group, the likes of Vossi, Monty, Kenny. They've been enormous, but I feel like the real challenges come when things aren't potentially going your way, or something happens in the game this week. It's maybe not going our way on field, but for the most part this year's been wouldn't say easy, but they've made my life pretty comfortable.
I feel like there's a bit more expectation on you guys, given the minor premiership, you've had a week off, had the last couple of months at home, which would have been stuck up on the goal. Is it more focused on you guys?
I think if anything, we've got high expectations of ourselves. At Port Adelaide, we expect to win the premiership every year, and we know that's not always the reality, but internally we have the same expectation. We want to go as far as we can, and we've put in a mountain of work this year. We wouldn't want to see it go to waste. So we'll be going out there with an expectation that we play a style of footy that delivers us a result.